Hey guys, how's it going? So today I finally got my hands on an Xbox Series X. What felt like forever waiting for them to be available, I finally got one. So for the past month, I've been playing the crap out of this thing. I feel like I've been able to get a pretty good idea of how this thing operates and performs, and I've been doing a bunch of research on the system and its limitations. So from what I've experienced and read online, here's my unboxing and review of the Xbox Series X. Let's check it out. I also have the Elite Controller Series 2 to check out. I've been using both these things. I've been using this for over a year now, and I've been playing this for the past month. I wanted to kind of let the hype die down a little bit and see what it was really all about. Alright, so coming in at just shy of $600, you're going to be spending around $580 to $590 on the Series X. We have Master Chief here on the back of the box. Sadly, his game is not even out yet, so it's kind of funny that he's on the back of the box. Alright, opening it up now. Woo! Power your dreams. Thank you, Xbox. I will power my dreams. Now, of course, this came in a kind of a black wrapping when I first unboxed it, but I'm re-unboxing it just for you guys. Oh my goodness, this thing is hefty. Hefty. All right, let's try not to drop this thing, and let's put this right here. Where's the front? There it is. Boop. It is heavy. So there's that. Take that off, and then get the rest of the stuff out of this box. So around the time making this video, the Xbox Series X and S have sold around 2 million units, while the PlayStation 5 has sold 3.5 million units. As far as what's in the box, you have your Xbox system, a HDMI 2.1, your power cable with no power brick, that's nice, and then you have a controller. You also have some paperwork in here. You can read it if you want. Let's go ahead and look at the controller first. Now, this isn't too much of a design difference from the Xbox One controller, but I must say, when it sits in your hands, there's something about it. It feels good. So you have a new share button. The D-pad has kind of been brought over from the Elite series, where it has this kind of like left down, right down, up left, up right buttons you can click. The triggers have little grips on them, and then same go for the joysticks. It's also now USB-C, which thank goodness they did that. So besides those few small changes, that's really it as far as the Xbox controller. It's very, very similar to the Xbox One controller. The buttons feel good though. They click very nicely. The clicks feel premium, I guess. You can hear that. Let's go ahead and grab a Xbox One controller. This is it's been around for a while. This is my Xbox Lab controller. It has my name on it. I think it's Lab. It's just tape, and I don't know. It's old. I thought it looked cool, but here's the sound difference between the triggers. So here is the right trigger on the Xbox One controller, and then here's the click on the Series X. It almost feels as if it's like a cushion back there. Feels good. And then here's the right bumper on the Xbox One. And the Series X. So a lot quieter. Alright, controller feels good. We'll go ahead and put the controller to the side. You have your two cables that I've mentioned. Now let's go ahead and look at the system itself. So as far as the specs for the Series X, you have an 8-core, 3.8 gigahertz custom Zen 2 CPU. To compare this to a PC, you would be looking at the Ryzen 3700X, and that CPU would run you about $270. And now the GPU is a 12 teraflop 52 CU custom RDNA 2 from AMD with 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 RAM. The comparison for PC would be the Radeon RX 5700 XT. and that's going to cost you around $400, and it's really not even the equivalent to this, because the 5700 RX does not support ray tracing, which the Xbox's GPU does. So if you were to be building a PC, just the comparisons of the GPU and the CPU in this thing is going to run you around $670 alone. Top Tech estimated that if you were to build a PC capable of everything the Xbox Series X would be, it would cost you around double. They said it would cost around $1,200 to $1,300. Out of the box, this thing supports ray tracing. And then for me, one of the most impressive aspects about it might be its load time. So everything from Cyberpunk to GTA 5 can usually load in around a minute or so. Cyberpunk usually takes around a minute, while GTA Campaign takes 40 seconds, and then GTA 5 Online can take anywhere from a minute 30 to 2 minutes sometimes, depending on your internet speed.
Somebody say yoga? Trevor? Michael.
Hey, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, I bet it is. I'm sorry. Where are my manners, right? Amanda, it is good to see you. Oh, I missed you. You used to be fatter. Nice new.
Looking at the back of the device, you have a Ethernet port, you have an HDMI port, you have your power port, you have 2 USB ports, and then you have an expandable storage. Also on the front, you have another USB, so that's 3 USBs altogether. Where's it at? Right there. 3 USBs altogether. You have your sync button, and then you have your disk eject button. So if you so please, you can turn your Xbox on the side, and you can have it play like that. It has little pads here for it to sit. I personally like to have it standing up because that's the direction of the button, and I think it just looks a lot better. So you can plug in an external USB storage device, but the thing is that you can only store and run Xbox One and backwards compatible games off of that storage device. Any Series X games need to be stored on the internal drive in order for them to play. Like I had mentioned, you can also expand your storage by buying a 1 terabyte expansion card. It's going to run you about $214, and it's not going to slow your games down in any way. All right, so now that we've kind of looked at the controller and the system itself, let's go ahead and look at the Elite Series 2 controller. So I think the Elite controllers for the Xbox are the best controllers out there by far. Better than PlayStation, anything PC has. I just love the Elite controllers, especially the Series 2. Now, this is just a bottle cap from Fallout. It's not actually a part of the controller. It's just a little pin that I put on there. All right, so looking at the Elite Controller Series 2, they brought a lot over from the previous controller. You can still take off all your joysticks. You can take off the D-pad still. They include a regular D-pad. They still have this multi-channel that you can customize the button layouts, and then you can kind of have different profiles by clicking the button. You can have profile 1, profile 2, or profile 3. You still have your hair triggers, which have 3 different settings. You have pretty much normal, halfway, and then hair triggers. You have your sync button there, which I'm glad they changed it. It used to be green on the on the first series. I don't know why it was green. It looked horrible. And then you have your buttons. You can configure A, B, X, and Y. Now, I went ahead and borrowed my roommate's Series 1 Elite controller, and this thing has seen better days. My goodness, it's missing a pad on one side. It's kind of falling apart. But just having them two, and this is also the pad fell off the trigger here. So there's quite a big difference between the two. They've kind of gotten rid of most of the gray, still a little bit of gray on the triggers. The buttons are the same, but you can also see that the Xbox home button is different. Where it once was 2 pieces, now it's almost like one solid piece, where it doesn't kind of break away here. As you can see, it's one solid piece here. On the first series, you only had 2 different modes you could have it in, or 2 different profiles, I guess. And there's that ugly green sync button. Not sure why they had that on there. But yeah, those are the Series 1 and 2 Elite controllers. Series 2 is awesome. Definitely thinks it's worth the money. Let's go ahead and look at the box too. I forgot that. On the Series 2, you can take off the joysticks and you can adjust the kind of the firmness of the joystick. If you turn it all the way to the left, it's going to be very loose. And then if you turn it all the way to the right, it's going to be very firm. It also comes with 4 other joysticks, and then the D-pad like I had mentioned, and your little tool. And last but not least, probably my favorite part of the controller, it comes with a 10-foot USB-C charging cable and a nice little charging pad, or stand, I guess, that you can plug your USB-C cord into, and then all you have to do is set your controller on it, and it charges. I love it. I put it on it every night, and then every morning it's charged up. Don't have to worry about batteries or anything. Also, another kind of neat little feature, there's a hole in the back of the case to where you can set your charging pad inside the case, and then you can run a cord through the case so that your controller can be charging while it's in the case. And I love that's just such a nice little touch. So I just thought I would go ahead and mention some of the games that are available to be played in 4K at 120 frames because this system does support that. That's awesome. I'm glad to see systems, or consoles I should say, are now offering that experience. So some of these games are, as of right now, Cold War, Gears 5, King Oddball, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom, Orphan of the Machine, Rainbow Six, and the Halo Master Chief Collection, which is awesome that they're going back to older games and allowing for that 4K 120 frames. I love to see that. I personally have played so far Cold War and Gears 5 in 4K at 120 frames, and it's buttery smooth, looks awesome, plays so well. Xbox says its goal is to have all of its old games run at least 4K with 60 frames, which they're getting there. I'm glad that they're going back and paying attention to some of those older titles. I thought I'd mention that not every new game is going to be able to be played in 4K at 120 frames or even 60 frames. I ran some tests on Cyberpunk 2077, and here's what I got. So I was able to play Cyberpunk in performance mode at 2880 by 1620 at 60 frames a second. That held pretty constant throughout the entire game. A few frames dropped here and there, but for the most part, it held constant. And then in quality mode, I could play at 3200 by 1800 at 30 frames. The game ran super smooth in both modes, but I could definitely tell a difference in frames in performance mode, having those extra 30 frames. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap things up with 5 good things and 5 bad things about the Xbox Series X. Starting with 5 bad things. All right, number 1 being launch games. The Xbox Series X has absolutely no launch titles, none whatsoever. The PlayStation 5 launched with Spider-Man, they launched with Demon's Souls, and I think Astro's Playroom. There could have been a few others, but there's 3 right there that the PlayStation 5 had right from launch, while the Xbox didn't have anything. And as far as launch games go, they also have very few exclusive games. So the Xbox, even games like Halo today, you can play on PC. However, that could change in the near future, as last year Xbox bought Bethesda, and Bethesda owns games like Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Prey, and then my personal favorites, The Evil Within 1 and 2, more specifically The Evil Within 1. I love those games. So now with Microsoft owning Bethesda, it is very, very possible and very likely that all those games are now going to be exclusive to Xbox. I've also seen other theories to where Xbox may hold that against PlayStation and tell them like, hey, yo, stop having so many of your games exclusive, and we won't make these games exclusive. But I think it's very likely that in the near future, Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Evil Within, and all other games under Bethesda will be exclusive to the Xbox. So for Xbox fans and Xbox, that's a good thing. I personally don't like exclusives. I think all games should be available to all systems across all platforms, but I understand that it's a business and it makes total sense. All right, so number 2 is the interface. Xbox has the same old interface. They didn't get a new one. It's been the same update that they've been rocking for I think a few months now, maybe half a year, something like that. While PlayStation, they got a whole new user interface, and it is next gen. While that might necessarily not be a bad thing for many people, as it's very familiar, and right after I got done setting up my Xbox, I knew exactly where to go for settings and my games and everything else. Everything was familiar, and I knew where I was going. But for some people, they might want something new. They might be expecting something new. Number 3 is the controller. So the controller is, like I stated earlier, pretty much the same as the Xbox One. Very few new features. It does feel good in the hands. It's slightly bigger, I think, and that might be what I'm feeling. And then they also have the share button, but that's it. And USB-C, of course, we can't forget. While the PlayStation, on the other hand, they have an all new controller with really cool triggers that kind of have like a firmness to them. They also brought back the touchpad on the PlayStation 5. So as far as controllers go, the PlayStation definitely wins. All right, so number 4 is the storage. So on the Xbox Series X, you have 802 gigabytes of storage after your system updates and all that stuff for you to use. On the PlayStation, you have 667 gigabytes after system updates available. So on paper, Xbox, I guess, wins, but still, I think 1 terabyte is not enough, maybe, for the next gen. I really wish they would have put just 2 terabytes and went all out. But if you only play maybe 4 or 5 games mostly, that shouldn't really be a problem. But if you're getting new games every month or whatnot, then you're probably going to run out of space pretty soon. I have 4 big titles on my system right now. I have Black Ops 3, I have Cold War, GTA 5, and Cyberpunk. And then I also have, I think, 3 or 4 other smaller games that are under maybe 5 gigabytes. And with all those games total, I have around 132 gigabytes left over. So I still have a decent amount of room. I guess you could say, one big game is still available to be downloaded, and then I have those 4 other games that are taking up a lot of space. But like I mentioned before, if it is a big deal, you can always buy an extra terabyte, and they made it really convenient just to plug in your memory card, and you're good to go. So last for the bad is number 5, and that is the hype. The hype around both these systems was huge, and if I had to pick one side or the other, PlayStation or Xbox, I think the hype goes to PlayStation easily. Because if you look at PlayStation, I mean, they have everything new. Everything's new. They have a new user interface, a new controller, a new system that's huge. It's a new color, it's a new design. Everything's new. New games to launch. And then on the other hand, you have the Xbox. It's a square black box with green paint on the top. Now, I'm not hating on the Xbox. I love the simple design. I really do. But as far as the two systems, one system is very fancy and bold, and the other system is very simple and basic, you could say. Like I said, though, I'm not hating on the Xbox. I really do love its shape and its simplicity, and that's going to bring us over to the goods of the Xbox. Now, in my opinion, the goods greatly outweigh the bad, and I really had trouble finding 5 issues I had with this. Now, for the good, number 1 is the Game Pass. I'm sure you've heard of it. It is a collection, a library of games that you have instantly. I got on Xbox's website, and I counted 268 games on the Game Pass that you can play right when you set up your Xbox, of course, if you have the Game Pass. Now, for people on a budget, that might be a great thing. I mean, it is a good thing. You have so many games for free to play, and it's only, like $15 a month? If you play maybe two big games, not even big games, but if you download and beat 2 games a month, I think you're getting your money's out of it. Number 2 being backwards compatible. So every single Xbox One game, besides Kinect games, because Xbox no longer supports Kinect, is backwards compatible on the Series X. You also have 568 Xbox 360 games and then 39 original Xbox games to play. And as time goes on, I'm sure both of those will go up. I must say that it is quite crazy that I can go and grab a game off my shelf that's literally been sitting there for 17 years, pop it in my Xbox, and play it. It's really pretty crazy, even if it's not used that much. All right, number 3 being accessories. So all the accessories will carry over, everything from your controllers to your chat pad to your media remotes. And it's nice because when I hooked up my new Xbox, I didn't have to resync my controller. It just automatically worked, and that was super convenient. 30 minutes later, after I got done setting up my Xbox, I was playing a 10-year-old game with 2 of my friends right next to me, and we were using my old controllers from the Xbox One. It's just nice that you don't have to go out and buy new controllers, which I hate buying new controllers because they're so expensive, and often you really only use one. So number 4 is Quick Resume. This is another one that I'm sure you've heard of, but Quick Resume's awesome. You can quickly switch back and forth between your favorite games without having to load them back up, and it's so seamless. It really does feel next gen, and although I don't use it a whole lot because when I typically sit down and play a game, I usually just sit down and play one game for a couple hours. But when I do switch back and forth between games, it's seamless, and it always puts a big smile on my face when I load right back up into a game I was playing. All right, so number 5 is more of a personal thing, and this really isn't like a versus between the PlayStation because the PlayStation has this too. And this is a 4K disc drive. Now, me being someone that still watches a decent number of movies, it's nice to not only be able to play games in 4K, but also watch movies in 4K. Most people forget or don't know that when watching movies in HD or 4K, that you're only getting a fraction of the information that's available. An Ultra HD 4K disc typically has 5 times the amount of information of the same movie being streamed. This extra information gives you a sharper image and a higher quality movie overall. Also, most quality 4K disc drives are going to cost you around $150 plus, and for name brands like Sony and Samsung, you can expect to spend $250 just for a 4K disc drive. So I'm glad that the Xbox also includes that. So my final thoughts on the Xbox. Is the Xbox Series X worth it? Yes, it's worth every penny. So as I had stated before, if you were to go the PC route, you'd be spending around $1,200 to $1,300 just to build a comparable system. Now, a year from now, this may no longer be the case. Of course, as time goes on, it's going to be cheaper and cheaper to build that PC. So which system is better, the Xbox Series X or the PlayStation 5? Now, I've played both systems. I only own the Xbox. On paper, technically, the Xbox Series X is more powerful and it has faster load times. But these are by very small margins, and I personally think that it really comes down to preference. If you were to put the Xbox and the PlayStation in the same room, and if you were to have someone play them without revealing to them which system they're playing, of course the controller would give it away. But besides that, I don't think they would be able to tell a huge difference between the two systems. In fact, I think both systems would look very, very similar. So really what it comes down to is preference. Are you looking to spend a couple $100 and then have a library of over 200 games available to you? Then go with the Xbox. Are you a big gamer and you want to play all the big titles that come out? Then go with PlayStation because they're going to have probably mostly everything that the Xbox has and then some exclusive games. Are you just wanting to have the most powerful system possible? Then throw a couple $1,000s into a PC, and that's that. You can do everything both these systems can and better. So to wrap things up, I think the Xbox Series X for $600 is an incredible deal, and it's going to be hard to beat. Considering you're getting 4K gaming, 120 frames, ray tracing, not to mention you have the Xbox Game Pass, which has over 250 games available to you. You can use all your old accessories, and it's going to be very familiar if you're coming over from an Xbox One. So that wraps up the video, guys. If you have any comments, questions, any points to make, anything that I said wrong, if I misspoke, let me know in the comments. I really want to know your guys' opinion. What system do you guys like the most? Is it the PlayStation? Is it the Xbox? Are you on PC? Does it matter? Do you care? Thanks again, guys, and I'll see you later. Peace.